Welcome to Awaken Soul with me, Kristen. This is the place to elevate unity consciousness and create the new earth. Are you awakened to your heart and soul-led life? Are you seeking clarity, connection, and a deeper sense of purpose? You are not alone. You are part of a grand awakening, a collective shift that is transforming our world from the inside out. Join me each episode as we explore consciousness and spiritual evolution through inspiring conversations, wisdom teachings, and powerful activations. This is more than just a podcast. It's a sacred global community creating a new earth of unity, love, and freedom. So open your heart, get ready to be inspired, elevate in frequency, and awaken to your highest potential. The shift is here, and it all starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen Bielecki, and you are listening to Awaken Soul with Kristen on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience more calm and clarity in your heart, mind, and soul and body. And today we have the wonderful privilege of being here with Michelle Sinclair. I am so grateful that you're here with us, Michelle. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to be here. So
Yay.
excited.
From Sedona, as you all can
Yeah.
see. She's got the incredible background for us to really connect in with that vibration as well. And so, Michelle, when we first got together to get to know each other and discuss what we were going to share today, you tuned in and the word thoughts came in for you. And so I'd love to just really support people today in how to quiet the mind, connect in and understand loop thoughts, mind chatter, and all of that, and bring supportive solutions and guidance to have a quieter mind and more clarity and presence. Yeah, so to
Yes.
hear what's present for you now with thoughts.
So there's so much as being a teacher of the Christ letters, understanding universal law, universal consciousness. We know that thoughts are so important and that they're actually the fabric of the universe, the things that we believe. So the thoughts that we think over and over is what we're witness to in the world outside of us. And so when we, use our thoughts and we're wasting them, perhaps, let's say that there's a thought loop or there's something like this that's going on. I like to say, we only have this much energy, but we get it every day. Every single morning we wake up, we get the same amount of energy. And so all these thoughts, all this energy is going out here, there, and everywhere. And now if we're using them for something that is not helpful to us, what percent of your day is used in thought loops? And so then that percent you no longer have for yourself. You don't have it to create something good and wonderful in your life or to, move yourself forward because you're essentially wasting it, not intentionally. We don't, harm ourselves intentionally, typically. Sometimes people do. But we're wasting that. And if we had that all back, what could we do with it? We could do so many wonderful, wonderful things. So yeah, today I would like to talk about reaping and sowing, the thoughts that you put out and what you get back, and then how to really control those thought loops as well. So, so if you think about, being in a typical thought loop, sometimes it will be a situation, sometimes it will be a person, sometimes it will just be some type of addictive thought that comes in. And so here's the example of what I did for myself. When I finally decided, I made a decision and decided I was going to leave where I was at. That was it. I wasn't going to put up with that anymore, and I was leaving. So upon deciding this, I thought, okay, well, what if this person, essentially who I'm leaving, pops into my head? What do I do about that? So quick, easy, simple solution. First of all, realizing I had given them, 20 plus years of my thought loops and was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just not doing it. So anytime that they would come into my energy field, into my thoughts, anytime I would get a text, anytime anything, I would take them. I would put them up on a shelf. I'd slide something in front of it and I would think about something else. At that time, it was like puppies. Puppies or kitties, something that I like to think about. It's really any thought that uplifts you, because that thought loop has a very specific vibration to it. And it's probably not good, but if it is real good, keep thinking it. Um, but those vibrations, so if you think about, the stress or the tension or the tightness or the whatever it is that's in your body when you have that particular thought loop, you want relief from that.
Mhm.
So putting it on a shelf, putting something in front of it, I'm not going to look at that now. I'm not ignoring it. I will address it if it needs to be addressed, but more than likely, it probably doesn't need to be addressed. So we can just keep ignoring it till our neural pathways change. Um, but getting rid of that and then thinking about something that is higher vibrational. And it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it makes your body feel uplifted, higher vibrational, then you're attracting those things into you and not that lower repetitive thought
Mhm.
loop vibration, which we don't want.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 beautiful. I appreciate you saying that. And what was really interesting because as you were sharing that, I was thinking of my own experience with having thought loops and patterns. And I appreciate you sharing your personal experience because I had a similar, similar where I was like, okay, I'm done with this relationship,
Mhm.
done with this experience, and just like, wow, same thing. How much energy have I been like pouring into this? It was a great growth process at the same time, but
Mhm.
one of the things that I'm really leaning into with this that just popped in as you were speaking, and what I sense others experience too, is that stress and tension that happens in the thought loops and anxiety, the
Mhm.
anxiety that comes up around the change, right? Like there's that invitation to have an uplifting thought, to shift the vibration. But then there's that what I find is there's that in between space between, okay, I want to make a change. I want
Mhm.
something different. But then there's maybe even the stress or anxiety of the actual making the actual change. And
Mhm.
so just curious if you could address that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're talking about, worry,
Mhm.
well, first of all, not that any, it doesn't matter if you follow the Bible or not. This is just an example that can be used, is that it says 365 times in there, do not be afraid. So that's one for every day of the year. So it seems to be, pretty important. And why is because also, as Christ taught, you reap as you sow. So when you are sowing worry seeds, thought seeds of worry, you will harvest them at some point. You have vibrationally planted something, which I can give you a good story about that. Um, but you have planted something that you will then harvest. It doesn't mean it'll be today. It doesn't mean it'll be tomorrow. It could be in a month or in whenever it is. Sometimes it's instant, depending on the person, depending on how clear they are, depending on if you live in Sedona. Things are very rapid here.
Yeah.
Um, but let's say that you have that worry that naturally comes up. Maybe that's your set point. When, I've been a hypnotherapist for 10 years, and so I work a ton with anxiety, and depression was kind of at the forefront for about the last 8 years, was the top things I would work with. So first of all, I would say, if that anxiety is present, there is an underlying issue that is the actual issue that is there.
Mm.
So if someone was to tune in to their body, take yourself into a meditative state, really tune in, focus on that anxiety, that feeling that comes up. Where do you physically feel it in your body? Where is the tension? Where is the tightness? Maybe it's just thoughts in your head. Maybe you feel it in your finger or your elbow or your chest. People hold this in different places. Everyone's different. So wherever you feel it, once you've taken yourself into state, then I would have them follow that back and find out where it began. So I'll give you a couple examples. These would be probably the most prevalent. It could have come from the womb. Some people will regress back to being in the womb, and there's a feeling in there. Maybe mom was stressed out. Maybe she had a lot going on. She didn't know what to be doing. So then the baby takes that on as mom doesn't want me, causes anxiety from the day that you're born. Or maybe it came from something in childhood. Maybe, parents weren't getting along. Maybe somebody said a comment that embarrassed you. Something happened, or perhaps school. This is also common, being bullied in school, not even by children, sometimes teachers making a comment, causing embarrassment, or causing, you to stress out or worry. That is why that is present. And until that is addressed, that will continue to come up throughout a person's life. And often people will say, oh, that's just my anxiety. Oh, that's just my what. And it's like, no, it ain't, man. Like if we regressed you back, that's
Yeah.
not part of you at all. That's something that came at some point, but it's not you.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say that needs to be addressed. But here's a good technique. So let's say that you had anxiety, you had some, maybe you have it right now. You could close your eyes, you could take a few nice deep breaths. And so what I like to have people do is really just count from 10 to 1, nice and calm through their breaths, imagining the number 10, then letting it go, then imagining the number 9, letting it go. So you're really bringing yourself centered and inward and just focusing on the breath and focusing on the numbers. And then once you have gone from 10 down to 1, then you can just, with your eyes closed, imagine that feeling draining out of the palms of your hands and out of the soles of your feet, just like water would spill out. And so you can imagine draining it out, letting it out. Maybe it's a certain color. Um, but you just kind of hold that nice, calm, relaxed feeling until you can drain it out of your body. Maybe it would take a couple minutes, but once you've done that, then you'll open your eyes and you'll be like, oh, wow, I feel so much calmer, so much better. So as you do this, you can then train your body. It's called autogenic training, that you can command your body to do this. So you could count from 10 to 1, and then you can just tell yourself, I let go, I let it go, I let it go, I let it go. And you keep telling yourself that, and your body will listen to you. And then you can let that stress and tension go, because you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And it does not feel like freedom when you have anxiety, meaning you are thinking something that is out of alignment with the divine, that is not the truth. So something needs to shift. So you're not doing yourself a disservice. Some people think, well, if I don't worry, then what about this? Well, if you don't worry, man, then your body's going to be healthy. You're going to have clarity. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to have new ideas that come through. That worry has not done you 1 second of goodness. Maybe if you're walking through a back alley and you got this bad feeling, something, yes, this is a warning, but besides that in your life, you do not need it.
Mm.
It's like walking next to a cliff. We don't need to have that feeling of fear to tell us not to get too close. We need it the first time. And then we're like, I'm just not going over there. We just know
Yeah.
we don't need it.
Yeah, fantastic breakdown of that, as well as I appreciate the way to work with the anxiety, the example, the technique you gave. That was really supportive. And I suppose that could also work for mind chatter when we notice, like, oh, yep, I'm having that looping thought, or I'm having mind chatter. Maybe I just need to take some breaths, count down, let my energy ground, flow out, and kind of reset,
Yeah.
reset the mind, reset where we want to go. Yeah.
There's pattern interrupts too that can help for that, because typically mind chatter is something negative, about self or about others or about something that's going on.
Yeah.
So, having a pattern interrupt and recognizing that and remembering, the truth will set you free. If you were thinking something and it feels awful, it is actually not truth. It's not the divine truth. It's not. And it doesn't matter how many times you could prove to yourself, oh, but I think that I'm not good enough, and it gets proven to me all the time. The only thing you're proving to yourself is your belief. You're not proving the truth.
Yeah.
And so when you shift the belief, then you're going to get different proof. And if that proof feels like relief and freedom, then that's the truth. One night we had I do circle with
Mhm.
my friend. And so we hold spiritual circles for people. People come in, we'll, you know, I'll get intuitive messages. We'll do energy activations, this kind of thing. And so one night, that angel, and I think his name is Ophanum, if you look it up, the angel that's covered with the eyes. Do you know what I'm talking
Yep,
about?
yep, yep.
Yeah, like all over the wings, all over the thing. And I was like, what is this? Because I'm seeing this thing and I'm like, I don't know, this is an angel. And it was like, no, I'm the angel of truth, of perspective. And it was like, which eye do you need to look out of so
Mhm.
that you can put yourself into divine alignment? And it was like, oh, there's just so many eyes you could look through. Which one is the truth?
Mhm.
And often, especially when we're stuck in thought loops, we are believing or thinking something that is not true, or we have some type of obsession,
Yeah.
some type of that feeling. So then you could follow that feeling of that obsession. Where is that actually coming from? What is it actually that you are seeking?
Mhm.
Because that thought is doing something for you, or you wouldn't be having it. It might
Mhm.
not be something good, but it's doing something. So, figuring out what that is, why it's there, and then healing it so that you can claim all of that energy back and use it as your power and use it to move forward in your life. Typically, when there's a lot of thought loops, there will be stuckness, there will be stagnancy in life because we just actually don't have the energy to go forward.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, beautiful. I love that because I also say that too. It's like like what angle are we going to see this from? What perspective are we going to see this from? And so when I'm working with people too, it's always the invitation. Let's maybe see it from over here instead of in
Mhm.
that same position, that same perspective, that same way. And I feel like those get logged in
Yeah.
through trauma, through wounds. And when those pop up, it's like a hardwire. It feels like it's hardwired, right? Like into the
Mhm.
system. Like this is who I am because of this.
Yeah.
And life is like this because of this, So
Yeah.
let's
Totally.
let's explore that a little bit to support how we can recognize those repetitive thoughts or that mind chatter that is really just tied in, as you were speaking brilliantly about, maybe going a little deeper into those trauma and woundings that really create those very specific pathways of
Mhm.
repetition.
So one thing I really noticed working with clients was that there would be these patterns of, I'll just use relationships as an example, right? So a woman grows up, has an abusive father, maybe brother, male in her life. All of a sudden, her boyfriend is abusive. Now, all of a sudden, her husband is abusive. Now, all of a sudden, her second husband is abusive. It's
Mhm.
the pattern that is there. So,
Yeah.
why has this happened? First of all, she subconsciously believes that that's as good as it gets. She doesn't have an example of something even different. And if something else came up, like a man treating her good, she might feel really uncomfortable, like, oh, I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy of this. She might even push it away because it's not what is familiar or comfortable to her. And so obviously she doesn't want to be abused. Obviously she doesn't want that. But we allow these things to happen and we don't even know that we're doing it, and we think this is just my life, this is just how people treat me, this is just, and that has been the case up until that point. But because our thoughts are like seeds and we are literally planting them, when we believe I am not good enough, or I do not deserve this, or I deserve this, and it's negative, we get it. We have planted that seed. It will come for harvest. It will be apparent. We will actually reap it and sow it in our life. It will play out. And it's all because of a belief, not because of something that is true. And so when I see a pattern like this with a client, I will then um, I do all regression work. So take them back to the father abusing them. Okay, so what do you recognize if you were to, let's say, be abused by your father when you're little? If you took yourself into that scene now, would you think that that little you deserved that?
No.
Absolutely not. never in a million. But when you're little and it's happening to you subconsciously, this is the person you're supposed to be loved by and trusted. And that's not happening, but
Mhm.
that you know that that's supposed to be the case. And so, oh, it must be something I have done. I must deserve this. I'm not good enough or worthy or deserving or whatever it is. And that belief is implanted and it will stay there subconsciously, unknowingly in the background until it is changed. And so, because it wasn't changed at the little thing, now the boyfriend comes in, now the husband comes in, now the next husband comes in, and the same patterns have repeated
Yeah.
because of the belief that is underlying.
Mhm.
So, just recognizing that the belief can change, because if you look at that little you and you're like, well, of course she didn't deserve that. Well, she's you, you're her, same soul, same spirit. So clearly that must be the case for you then as well. And it can just, somebody can hear that and they can be like, oh, that's it. I'm not letting anybody abuse me anymore. Why did I allow this? But we allow so many things and we don't even know that we have done it because it's just comfortable and normal to us when it's not how it's supposed to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
So all
Yes,
of these things play out the same way, right? We
I do.
typically we don't know the subconscious beliefs that are there that are keeping us in these situations.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I can relate to that. When you brought up earlier, like if you've been bullied, I was bullied in grade school for like 3 years. It was like walking to school, walking home from school, being followed, being, just in school. It was constant, and so it took me a while to recognize that, wow, I'm holding these beliefs, it's just low self-esteem, not feeling good, like always looking out, making sure that, I'm around people. I'm not going to do anything that's going to create something. I was like, I just wanted to
Mhm.
hide,
Yeah.
hide from people. And so then it was like, oh, wow. And then when I connect, like you said, with that, when I connected with that me that was experiencing that, it was like, wow, there was so much compassion and so much love and so much, like, wow, we went through so much and we
Mhm.
experienced that. Now, that's, we don't need to go on in life like expecting that, or thinking
Mhm.
that's what needs to happen or that's what might happen. And it was a real powerful unraveling, of what I had been holding in my system for so many years. And I feel it's such a beautiful thing when we take the time to connect with ourself. And I think it's the same with thoughts. When we find ourselves in those thought loops, the repetitive patterns or the mind chatter, like stopping ourselves going, what I like to do is go, oh wow, yep. I'm going on about that in my head. I see you thoughts. I hear you thoughts. Like you say, the pattern disrupt. That's kind of how I do it. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, yep.
Yeah.
I see you. I hear you again. All right. What are we doing here? How is this serving me right now? What is this for? What's happening in my life that maybe it's triggered that mind chatter or that loop thought or that repetitive thought? And how can I
Mhm.
give it some space, give myself some space, calm down, and then, like you say, choose. Because you
Yeah.
were saying in the beginning, let's look at how we reap and sow and then how we can control,
Mhm.
our thoughts and create that space to move forward with something new.
Yeah. It's something that's actually the truth.
Yes.
Mhm. I think, too, these things happen for us. All of these things happen for us, the difficult things that we go through. So even the bullying at a young age, it is obviously so painful and so hard and so difficult to go through, but through having to heal that, because you have to heal that at some point, it allows you to take back power that you would not have had that not happened.
Mhm.
And it allows you to understand boundaries and things like that at a young age. It really puts in that drive of wanting to change the world and make it a better place. There's so many great benefits that come from all of the darkness, essentially, that we have to go through. That is where the gift is. When we seek it, we will find it.
Mhm.
Some people don't see that, don't know that. I'm sure if they're listening here today, they know this. Um, but they don't look at these things that have happened in the past and understand, well, the reason why that still pops up and why I still think of that once in a while is because it's actually not healed.
Yes.
Um, I had something come up the other day This was a couple months ago when I was meditating, and it was a thought of me being really little. And I have thought of this my whole life. So many times it's come up, but me being little and like speaking to my mom, but her not understanding me, and me saying, "But mom, I'm talking. I'm talking. Why aren't you listening to me? I'm talking."
Mhm.
And so there was this, subconscious belief of I'm not being understood. So
Mhm.
then I go into this deep into meditation, and I'm seeing it, from my perspective. And she's like, "Okay, sweetie, uh-huh," whatever she's saying to me. And then I go into her perspective and see myself talking, and I wasn't making any sense. I was baby talking. I wasn't actually speaking like I thought that I was. So her reaction to like, "Okay, that's so cute. Yep. I don't know what you're saying," but was typical and normal, what you would probably say to a little kid. But 40 some years, I've kept this thought of I'm not understood
Mm.
until I went into it and was like, "Oh, that wasn't even the case at all." Like I was actually not legible, and all of the things I wasn't. The perspective I had on that was completely different than the reality
Yeah.
of that, and it affected me up until that day. And then all of a sudden, um I have a YouTube channel, have quite a few followers on there, and all of a sudden I'm getting way more comments. So the things that shifted after, it was like, "Oh, of course people understand me." Everything shifted after that happened, but I was holding this belief that was resonating out of my body, going out there and creating the reality that was all around me because of this thought, this belief that I had. And it affected every single area of my life, not just between me and my mom, which was where that thought came from. That had nothing to do with it. So these little baby things that might seem insignificant are not. And any of these thoughts that we have from childhood, that are random, that come up, once a year, once however often, are significant. There's information that is in there that needs to be looked at to free you in some way.
Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. And congratulations on your shift. And
Yeah, it was cool.
yeah, those are big moments. And I have that same experience when something keeps popping up. It's for me, it's always a signal of information. What's here?
Mhm,
What do I get to explore? And I really appreciate that you brought that in. For any of you listeners who are parents or have had this experience when you're little, this is a great way to maybe shift, what you're experiencing. But I thought about that, being a mom and watching my son and even when he was little, when he would be baby talking, I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing, great. I would like give him all these like, even though I couldn't,
yeah.
understand what he was saying, but it was just like you could see in his eyes, because you can see in a little child's eyes how excited they are, even when they're just like, communicate when they are communicating. And
Yeah.
maybe in their head they think they're pronouncing and saying words, but at that, those younger ages where they're not quite there yet in delivering in a clear way to our ears, right?
Mhm.
But I would just tune into his energy and just be like, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
And but then now is, like, he's 10 now, and there are moments sometimes when he does say something, or just in communication together, where either one of us is saying something and I didn't quite hear what he said, or he doesn't quite hear what I said. I notice he gets really frustrated sometimes when I don't understand him. And or like when I have to repeat myself several times because he's like, like I don't remember what you said, or something.
Mhm.
And just recognizing, like I've learned to just calm down and say, okay, well, what's another way we can say this? And or let's breathe into this. And this can work in communication with anybody, and what are you trying to convey? What do we need to do here? Let's take a
Mhm.
breath together. Let's take a moment and let's figure out how we can just stop whatever else we're doing, get focused, and just communicate what we need to communicate. Right. So there's not that constant what, or
Yeah.
like what's going on? Like, what do you need? I don't know. That creates that tension, and
Yeah.
I find that creates the tension in ourself with the mind chatter when we're not clearly hearing ourselves and what we need. And maybe we're giving ourselves mixed signals because we're not understanding maybe what our body's trying to tell us. And then it triggers a thought, a loop thought or something. And so
Mhm.
just So I really appreciate everything that you're sharing, and I just want to take a moment here to welcome any new listeners that have joined us. We're here with Michelle Sinclair. She's really sharing some beautiful information on how we can shift loop thoughts and connect with our mind chatter so that we may have higher vibrational energy coming into our system and control. Really, what I feel like you're really sharing is directing, really directing our energy.
Mhm.
And so we're going to share more and talk more, and in a little bit we'll be taking questions. So if you have anything that you've heard so far that you have a question about or a comment about, please put it in chat, and in about 15 minutes or so we'll engage with you, and Michelle can answer your questions. One of the things that came up as we're speaking is I was actually leading a class on intuition yesterday. And what you're speaking of is reminding me of the actual root word of intuition that actually came from a word that doesn't even sound like intuition. It's a contemplare in Latin, which is con and temple, with temple. Like we're in a space where we're with a temple where we're observing and considering what we're receiving. So we're like we're
Mhm.
taking the time to be with what's there
Mhm.
from a place of observation and from a place of a temple. And when I was really reading and tuning into that, I'm like, how profound
Yeah,
that is.
that's beautiful. Um, so this, ties into as well free will, right? So we all have free will, but what it is our consciousness. What it is our thoughts. And we can decide, and we go back and forth even in 30 seconds from heaven to hell, right?
Yeah.
We're thinking loving things, or we're thinking fearful things, or we're thinking, oh, this beautiful thing or this hateful thing. And that's our free, we have the choice. It doesn't always feel like a choice, but that is our choice. And
Mm,
when we choose the heaven every time, then this is actually what we will be witness to. It's what we will see play out in our life. But when we observe how often we just subconsciously have chosen that hell for ourselves, it
mm,
can be insurmountable. We go from, an example would be in the Christ letters of, you have to read your child a book, they're going to bed and it's like, oh, but I'm so tired, I don't really want to do that. Oh, but I should be a good mother and read the book. Oh, but if they could just, and you go back and forth, hell to hell, like how many times in how many seconds? And because these thoughts are seeds, you've now planted this, you're going to harvest this again, and you're going to have this exact same experience
mhm,
again and again and again and again,
mhm,
because we've planted these things. So becoming very aware of the heaven that we're planting, and choosing that. And a good way to test this, I would wake up in the morning and be like, okay, what percent of heaven am I in? Oh, only 98. Oh, so then, I would work with well, okay, well, what's the other percent that's there? But, I know prior to the enlightening experience that I had several years ago, it obviously wouldn't have been 98. I don't know what it would have been. But now if I wake up and I'm like, what? Oh, okay, what is the 2% that's left then? And then go into it, heal it before you ever even get out of bed.
mhm.
And then you can go throughout your day and you're literally sending love in every direction to all things all the time.
Yes.
And it becomes so uncomfortable if you don't. I don't know if you've ever done a dieta, or, the spiritual set aside this time for yourself where you've really gone in and haven't interacted with other people,
Mhm. Yeah.
for a long time. So, when you come back from that, when you get into the real world again, and if you were to like hear people gossiping, or if you were to hear people speaking negatively or complaining about something, it's such an insult to your system, because it's an insult to your soul, and it is not supposed to be this way. It's hard to handle, and you just want to remove yourself, and you typically do. um, Man,
Mm,
when everybody understands that they can free themselves, and that it is better and it's the best and it's the only thing that will ever bring fulfillment, is to have that divine connection. That's when the world shifts. That's when we are in heaven. We've created heaven here on earth. This is the whole purpose of the whole thing, is to do this. And it's through healing the little bits of hell that we contain within us that we don't even know we have. We
Yeah.
don't even know because it's just familiar. So many people are not thoughtful about their lives because they haven't had the opportunity or even the idea that they could be.
Yeah, I had to take a deep breath when you said it's such an insult, because I was like, like I know that feeling in that space, from just even being in the backcountry for a while where you're just in nature and immersed in just heaven and paradise. And then you come out and you're just like, whoa, like, what is all this going on? And
Yeah.
I was having this exact conversation with a friend yesterday. We were sitting in the creek, under the trees, watching our kids play, having fun. And wow, she was feeling just some intensity around what happens in a workplace. When you feel people come into work and they're just in this pattern of unconsciousness, right? And it's challenging to interact with that or like show up and be like have a higher vibration when people around you are not that. And I was just like, yeah, I get that. And this is where you get to have compassion with yourself for you being who you are and wanting to hold that space, but then also having compassion for them. Like you said, they may not even be aware that there's another choice yet
Yeah.
or there's
Hmm.
another option yet. And so this is where you get to like control your thoughts, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And relieve the loop thoughts because this is what happens too is we can start having loop thoughts around the world, not just about ourselves and our own healing stuff. It's like around the world or around what other people are doing or not doing. And oh,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of energy.
Really does. Our thoughts are so extremely powerful. Uh, and the more that you cleanse your mind, the more that you don't hold those low frequencies, the more powerful your thoughts and your words are. When we were just in Mount Shasta, speaking of Shasta, that we did a retreat there. And so me and my friend are kind of, it's totally divinely led. So there's not really much pre-planning. And so we're talking about, oh, what kind of icebreaker could we do? Like when everybody arrives here, and it was like, oh, well, we could, throw something, to somebody, and then they get to say this or whatever. And it was like, oh, what are we going to throw? And I'm looking around, I was like, the vase, because there was a vase sitting on the kitchen counter. And within about 20, 30 seconds, it flew off of the counter onto the floor. Uh, Thankfully, it didn't break because the glass was so thick. But it was like, oh, okay, we can't say these things. We have to be so careful with our words. Um, when I was, this is just neat. When I was up at my cabin, so this is after this enlightenment has come through. So this is several years ago. And so there had been days of like just amazing, wonderful downloads. I'm living in heaven. Like it's just the most amazing thing. So I would walk this path. And every day that I would walk down it with my dog, I would just throw these blueberry seeds, but they were consciousness seeds. They weren't actual seeds. And I'm throwing these blueberries. And I'm like, oh, there's gonna be so many blueberries here this year. There's gonna be so many blueberries. So this was in June. I came back then a couple months later. And as I'm walking down that path, right where I would do that, because it was kind of at the bend of the curve of this path, it is completely blue. It is like completely blue. So we don't even actually need real seeds to plant because this is actually what our thoughts are. We are made of the exact same energetic material as the world that we see around us. Science tells us, everything is vibration and light. And that is what it is. And our thoughts are made of the exact same, there's no difference. It's the exact same material of everything that is around us. This is why, two people could be sitting next to each other, viewing the same thing, having two completely different experiences because they actually are. This one isn't right. This one isn't right. They're both right. They're really seeing what they're seeing out there. Consciousness, the thoughts, the seeds, they actually paint our world.
Mhm. Indeed, indeed. And it's such a beautiful image, is that seeding. It's like,
Mhm.
wow, if our mind, if we can actually, I find that some people think the mind, because of the chatter and the challenges of the thoughts that are happening, some people have a bad rap about the mind, right? They're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the mind. I can't stand it. It's like, oh, wow. But if we can shift that perspective and say, my mind is actually a fertile ground.
Yes.
And I planted those seeds a long time ago, so that's what's growing. But if I can just see it as an ever-growing garden, right, that's always fertile,
Mhm.
what do I want to plant? What do I want to seed? What do I want to bring forth? And let that pathway start to open up. And that's such a beautiful image. It's like, ooh, I want a picture of that somewhere, like
Yeah.
planting seeds in the brain.
Hmm. And really,
Yeah.
what do you not want? So when something
Yeah.
presents to you and it was something you planted in the past, rather than get upset about it and plant more seeds of being upset that you'll have to harvest again in the future, you
Yes.
can look at it and you can be like, oh, okay, I know why this is happening
Mm,
because, I've felt this way before and I planted this before. I must be extremely powerful,
mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, because you are. And so then take it as that of, okay, well, because I'm so powerful, I don't want to harvest this again. So I'm just going to plant this.
Mm,
And it takes a bit.
mm,
I had one of my students one time do this experiment where uh, I had them write something down on a piece of paper that they wanted to manifest,
mhm,
and then see how long it would take for them to get it.
mhm.
And so she said she had forgotten about this, it had been a couple weeks or whatever, and then thought about it before she left the house that day and was kind of upset that she hadn't seen it yet. But what she had written down on her piece of paper was that she wanted to see the word milk written down somewhere. That was it. It was the most simple thing. Wanted to see that. So she goes to Walmart after this, after just thinking about, well, I didn't even see it. And like, oh, well, that's too bad. I guess it doesn't work for me or whatever she thought. She then goes to Walmart. There's a sticky note that is flapped halfway up in the parking lot. And the only thing that is written on it is the word milk. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, but it happens too, we seed these things all the time, but because we don't even consciously remember or think or know, or we're not aware that we're planting these things, we're constantly harvesting them and we don't even know that we've done it.
Yeah.
It was us that did it.
Hmm. And really, and I think that brings us to that space of where if we're in observation of our thoughts and we're really present with them, then guess what? We get to be present with what's around us and we'll notice those things, right?
Mhm.
We'll really notice them because I find that, if we're thinking, then we're not really present and we're not really paying attention to what is showing up for us. Like the
Mhm.
opportunities, the people, what we hear, what's around us, that's actually feeding us and showing us in that reflection. And I like what you said. I wanted to share one of the things that I like to do too, with just the seating piece is also role playing. Like sitting down in a meditative place and saying, okay, well, when this thought comes up next time, this is how I want to connect with myself. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to be. Or if it's with somebody else, this is how I'd really like to respond. Right. So
Mhm.
we're sitting and actually moving through it, visualizing it, hearing the voice, feeling the thoughts, feeling the emotions and the body language of what's there
Mhm.
to repattern.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, Another thing too is not denial. I know, so sometimes people have that they argue with themselves, right? Let's say that you feel a certain way and you're like, you're like, no, I'm not going to let myself get upset about that. Nope, 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 nope. So then really you actually are upset about it, but now you're fighting with yourself, telling yourself that you're not when you really are. Now
Mm.
there's a double fight that has gone
Yeah.
on inside.
Ooh.
Whereas if you could just be like, no, I am upset about this, allow yourself to be for a
Mhm.
little bit, then it softens and it goes away.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it then becomes stuck, stagnant energy in our body. As
Yeah.
soon as we say, I'm feeling this way, but I'm not feeling this way, I'm not going to allow myself, then we've created an extra problem and there will be stuck energy that's there that just needs to be felt and move through so it doesn't accumulate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Always, there's always that feeling like if we could be in flow, right? Our bodies really just want to be in flow. And that's why things are showing up. So we can be attentive to them and then let the energy flow, right? Instead of constricting or holding it or like you say, burying it or repressing it. And so this is the opportunity I feel to be in that connection. And I just want to invite anyone, if you have any comments or questions, you can put them in chat and send them in, and we can answer them for you or to and tend to your comments. So I'm really feeling kind of like the depth, the collective shift right now that's happening, and what is that potency of what's coming through the mind, like the greater intelligence of the field,
Mhm.
and how fear is popping in and confusion and difficulty with how to relate to the world, especially when we are awakening and when we are choosing to shift vibration. And there's that kind of, like I was saying earlier, that middle space of change.
Yeah.
And just really inviting, maybe if you want to share anything about how to perspective, that eye, what eye of what perspective do we want to look through when we're looking at the greater picture of reality, when we're having our thoughts, maybe repetitive thoughts about the greater picture and reality of things at this moment.
So one thing I would say, let's say that you're feeling something needs to shift. You're not happy with where you're working because you know that that's not the thing. It's not going to be the thing in the future. It's not the thing right now. That there's something happening within you because people's purposes are being activated right now. This is what is happening, right? The hearts
Hmm.
are waking up and they're like, man, I cannot stay at this place anymore. And you're right, you can't because you're supposed to do the thing you're supposed to do. So I would say about this is trust, step out in faith. We work with a woman who decided she couldn't do her job anymore. She just couldn't do it anymore. We hop on a call with her and we're like, okay, well, let's ask her to start working with us on May 2nd. Like that is what's in alignment. So then she pops on and she was like, guys, I just have to tell you, I just took a really big leap. I quit my job and my last day is going to be May 2nd. And we're like, of course it is. Of course it is. So when we listen and we trust and we follow in the right now, because the only time that we can make something happen, right, is in the right now, right? When you're out in public and you're like, oh, I feel like I need to go speak to that person, do it. Because the right now is going to tell you what you need to do. And so her being told, and the right now I need to do this, and then doing it was her act of faith stepping out. And what she had a job then lined up for her literally the day that she had quit her other one without even knowing that this was going to be offered to her.
Mm.
So it's truly having faith that if you're being told something in the right now, listen and do it because there's no future telling. There, it does not exist because we can make decisions that are going to change that in 5 minutes from now.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
it's
that brings me to, thank you. That's a beautiful story. I love that, to give people an example of what's true and possible when we are in the now and are in the present and make our decisions, choices, and move with the energy that is coming through right now.
Mhm.
And I can attest to that too, is several times in my life when it's like, yep, now, okay, great, let's do it,
Yeah.
and things open up and flow. And so um just wanted to bring in too those loop thoughts around when some people realize, wow, I didn't listen in the now. And now I feel like that opportunity has passed.
Mhm. Well,
And yeah, go ahead.
so I had a friend say this to me one time, and it was just so fabulous. And I've remembered it for like 25 years. So I said, oh, I just wish, that things could go back to how they were at this particular time. It was like I was so happy at this one time with this person and with the thing. And she says, she's like, you know what? It can't. It can never go back to how it was before. She's like, but it can go forward and it can be even better. And it will make you think, oh, I'm so glad that that didn't happen again because that would have not been as good as what this is. And so, that too, truly believing, like the Christ letter says, you do not know that tomorrow something amazing and wonderful will not happen for you, but you guarantee for yourself that it will not. When you believe that the same thing that happened yesterday is going to happen again tomorrow because our beliefs are the most powerful things. Our thoughts are the most powerful things. So expect and believe that if you know you're not where you're supposed to be at, expect that you're going to get an answer and some clarity of what it is you're supposed to do. Expect it. And we can't have new things come in if we're still tied to all the old energy. So, like I said, we only get this much energy in a day. If you're using all of it, which you are, everybody does every day. Well, what am I not going to use it for anymore? Okay, well, if I can take away these thought loops, which was 30% of my day, now I'm going to start making some forward progress. Maybe I need to let go of this job that's taking away 70% of the energy of my day. Well, now I got 70% more energy that new things can come in. But if you stay at the same vibration, you're going to get the exact same experience that's going to come and fill up that 70%. So when you're letting something go, you know, that's extra time to raise your vibe, to meditate, to let that vibration just increase, that frequency go way up. So then this is now what is coming in and is going to be offered to you rather than that same resonance as before. Because if you don't change, it won't change.
Absolutely. And I feel a lot of people will say, well, I've been affirming and I've been doing this and nothing's changing. And it's like,
Mhm.
I feel like bringing in what you said in the beginning about when we're having stressful thoughts and, maybe we just need to put it up, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like those are the thoughts that need to be tended to while we're doing our affirmations or our meditations, because those are the things that might not be changing and need to be tended to
Mhm.
while we're expecting or affirming, because we're like, I'm expecting it, but it's not happening. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, and two, if we're putting out something like of I want, right? Want carries a very
Yeah.
specific vibration, right? Of that, of you not having that thing. And so the universe is like, okay, you don't have that thing. You don't have the thing. You don't, because you're telling it you don't have the thing, as opposed to telling it, I have it. Oh, it's already here. I'm experiencing this. And this is from such a spirit. This isn't just it. This is how you manifest. When you are putting out the love, the divine will give you all of the love that you need and you will be supported. And this is how you get the things. Anything that you've ever manifested in your life has come from the divine love. That's where it's come from in the first place. Anytime you've ever been happy, all you've been experiencing is the divine love that was present that you then recognized in that moment or whatever it was. And you might just recognize it as happiness or joy or love or laughter or freedom, but it's all from the divine. And so the more that you devote to the divine, the more will be given to you. It will just be given to you.
Yes. That's that I
You
am presence, right?
It is. It is. And when you're in the I am and you're powerful and you know that you are powerful and you're feeling that, then the
Uh-huh.
universe is like, oh, they're powerful. What do they want? Here they go. Here, we'll just give you whatever it is that you need. But when you get to that point, you don't actually need or want anything anymore. It's just given. You're like,
Yeah.
what do you want? I don't even want to say it because I might get it and I might be limiting myself because it could be so much better. Just give me what you want me to have.
Amen. Yeah, powerful. It's give me what you want me to have. And that, we were talking about this image earlier, and this,
Mhm.
it says I am presence underneath it. Those are the words,
Right.
image. And it is that someone's sitting there and just receiving light, being with light. There's nothing else.
Yes.
Like
There's
I'm
nothing.
receiving, I am.
Yeah. And if you think about a relationship, right, you have to give time or the relationship doesn't exist. And so the more time that you can give in meditation, in thought, in word, in all of the things that you give to the divine, the more that relationship builds and grows and is given to you. You receive exactly what you give. There's total reciprocity, 100% reciprocity when you're in communion with the divine. So the more you give, the more you will receive.
Yes.
And what a better thing. I could get lost in meditation for hours and I have and I do. And it's just the most wonderful thing around. And profound things happen. And it seems like every time I'll go into a deep meditation, I will open my eyes and there will be animals that have come out of the woodwork all around that are just surrounding and just like there and observing. And it's like, well, of course, because when we're connected in this way, we're connected to all of the things, just as all of the things are always connected. It's only humans that got our little finite minds that block the flow that is always coming in with our thoughts. Literally, that's the only thing that we block it with is our thoughts of, oh, I'm not worthy. Other people can have that connection. I can't. Well, that's a belief. It will play out. You will be witness to it and you will get proof of that belief, not the truth, but of your belief. So it's like, search your mind as deep as you can and find all of the thoughts that are harmful and completely eradicate them because they are not helpful to you.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just feeling that when I was just feeling this whole vibration moving through my body as you were speaking about that giving and receiving and just appreciating that level of energy that you're radiating and sharing with everyone here. So, Michelle, I'd love for you to share how people can get in contact with you.
So I'm on the realhealinginstitute.com is my website, but the Real Healing Institute on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms you can find me. And if you go to my website, then you can get a hold of me. I also have a couple series. So I have a daily podcast on YouTube that's spiritual teachings, but I have a series on there called the Mental Cleanse series. It's a playlist. And so what it is over 40 videos that are free hypnotherapy sessions. Essentially, if you came to a group that I was putting on, it would be like you were attending to that. So there's healing the mother wound, healing the father wound, past life regression sessions, anger, sadness, grief, self love, all the things that you could possibly do. It's a way that you can work through it yourself with complete and total guidance. It's like your hand is being held, but I'm taking you into state, having you bring up the issue, having you relieve yourself of the issue. This is why it is called the Mental Cleanse series. Cleanse your mind so that the clouds that are keeping that pure connection from the divine from coming into you is gone. Get rid of the clouds, get rid of the dust, and then you're just living in the joy. And it's just amazing. You live in heaven.
Wonderful. What an absolutely divine gift. I'm going to do it.
Awesome. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go. 40 days of
Yeah. Yeah.
cleansing. What a beautiful, I love the 40 days too. It's very symbolic.
Mhm.
But yeah, so just inviting you who are here listening with us to remember, this is a powerful opportunity for yourself to tune into your thoughts, tune into your mind, tune into what you really want. Or no, not
Mhm.
want, right? Tune into who you really are underneath all the
Mhm.
thoughts. Connect into that divine I am presence and really tune in, heal all of the things that are showing up through your loop thoughts, your mind chatter, and come into a state of deep presence and clarity. And wow, the gifts from the divine that will show up in your life. So thank you for being here,
Mhm.
Michelle.
Thanks
And
for having me.
yeah, and I want to invite anyone who would like to get in contact with me. You can go to awakensoul.net and you can subscribe to the newsletter to receive the opportunities to experience more of these podcasts and energy updates. And also, July 7th, Monday, July 7th, I'll be leading Mastery Monday, which I always lead every first Monday of the month. And I do an energy update, meditation activation, and do share intuitive guidance with you. You can go to awakensoul.net, go to events, and click on Mastery Monday to be able to join that for free. So, Michelle, do you have any closing words for our audience today?
I guess I would just like to say that blessings are raining down on you, and expect proof of that within the next 2 hours. Just look for it. Hmm.
Beautiful. Yes, we receive. Thank you.
Hmm.
So we had a wonderful conversation, and thank you for being with us today. And so please join me
Hmm.
every first and third Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific here on Awakened Soul with Kristen. Have a great week. Our next show is July 16th. We will see you next time. Lots of love to you. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Awakened Soul, your place to elevate unity consciousness and to create the new earth. Join me, Kristen Bielecki, every first and third Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information and to connect with me, go to awakenedsoul.net. Explore how I can support you on your awakening journey through my online gatherings, sessions, and mentorships. Don't miss a show. Subscribe now to take the steps towards a more awakened, heart and soul-led life. Until next time, live, love, laugh, and be free.